Hello, this is Shiley from Sheepishly Made. Today we're going to learn how to needle felt this Santa Claus. So let's grab your supplies and let's get started. For supplies today, you're going to need a few different colors of roving. You're going to need a red, black, a light pink blush color, and then you're going to need this nice bright white wool and whatever you're using for core wool. And then you're going to need some kind of locks. These are Leicester long wool locks I'm using today. And if you are using my kit, you will have this hat template that we'll be using to make the size for our hat today. So starting off, we're going to make the hat for our Santa first. We're going to be using our red wool. So let's take a little bit of that red wool. I like to pull it into smaller pieces, but we're going to lay it out on our felting mat, kind of in a triangle shape. You want it to be a little bit bigger than the hat template. This template is about 6.5 inches tall, 4 inches wide. So if you want to kind of gauge your size to the size we're doing, that's about the size. So we're going to lay out this red, make a nice even layer of wool. You start out with a little and you can always add more later. And then I'm going to grab a felting needle. I'm going to be using the 36 or 38 triangle. Those are my go-to for most of the needle felting projects. And you're just going to start by felting all over your triangle of wool. So as you felt, if you're looking at the hat template here, it has a rounded bottom, and that gives it the shape we need to make it into a cone later. So you can kind of shape it as you felt along. If you have made any of the gnomes before, this is the same process. So just felt over the whole surface, and then we will pick it up and flip it over and repeat on the other side. Okay, now we're going to gently pull up on our hat piece and pull it up. Just be very gentle. Okay, now we're going to flip it over. We're just going to repeat the whole process on the other side. Make sure when you're felting that you don't felt too deep into your mat. If you had a hard time pulling it up, you might be felting too far into the mat, pushing your needle too far in. You only want to push it far enough that you go through the wool you're working with and just hit the surface below. You don't want to go into your mat. Okay. Now it's okay if it's coming apart a little bit, because we can add more wool, or you can overlap that piece slightly and just felt it to the part next to it. Okay, and then I'm going to define the edges of this hat a little better. So I'm going to just fold over these edges slightly where they need to straighten up. And I'm just going to make sure I have a nice straight edge all the way up. Do the same thing on this side. And I'm going to make sure my bottom, the curve is the way I want it to. It doesn't have to be a large curve, just a slight curve. Just about like that. And I pick up my projects off my mat a lot just to make sure they're not sticking, because if you keep going and then felt a lot, it gets harder to pull them off. But if you're having a hard time, you're felting too hard and your needle's going too deep into the mat. So before I do anything else, I'm going to felt this side over, and then we'll flip it over and see how it looks. Okay, so I flipped it over. Now what I'm going to check for are thin spots in my hat. Right here, this is a little thin spot. I don't know if you can see my finger through it right there. And right here. So any parts that look thin, I am going to add a little bit more wool to. I think I'm going to add a little bit more wool over here so I can get this edge a little bit straighter as well. Just do a small amount at a time. And then I'm just going to felt it right on top. Okay, once you've filled in all the thin spots and got it nice and flat, if it's not too flat yet, you can continue to felt it down. Flip it over and keep repeating that process until it's flat. Mine's usually about 1/4 inch thick. So now that we have the flat piece done, we're going to make it into the cone shape for the hat. So how you do that is you just fold it over and match these two edges together. And then take your felting needle and just felt through the two edges, just at the very edge. And felt all the way along that edge. I'm going to flip it over and repeat the process. Okay, now I'm going to check the seam. So you want to open up the hat and just going to check the seam, make sure it's all closed up. It's kind of like sewing when you sew a seam together. Now, if you want to make the seam lay a little bit more flat, it's going to be on the back of the Santa hat, so you're not really going to see it. But we're going to open it up. And what I do, I slide my 2 fingers in the hat I'm going to keep them open so the needle can go in between, and just felt that seam down, because you don't want to felt the two sides of your hat together. You want it to stay open. So I just lightly, very gently push my needle onto that seam, and it kind of felts it down so it's not sticking out so far. So there, I have a hat. You want to make sure it's all open. And that is the start of the hat. So the next thing we are going to do is make the main part of the body of the Santa. And you can kind of see from the back a little bit better. It's just a sphere shape. So we're going to need the core wool to make that sphere shape. We use core wool because we don't waste all of our dyed wool, because this can go on the inside. You don't have to see it, so it can be a little less quality wool. And we don't, waste, because the dyed wool is usually, you're going to pay more money for that because it takes more time and supplies. So take a little bit of core wool roving here, and I'm going to start at the end of it, and you want to roll it up and keep it in a ball shape, and you do that just by rolling, turning it so the edges go in. So you kind of roll and turn it at the same time, instead of just rolling it straight like into a cylinder. This helps it form more of a sphere. So I'm going to tack down my end, and then I'm just going to quickly felt all over the loose wool. I'm going to add a little bit more to this, so it's a little bit bigger, I believe. We'll measure it in a second and make sure it's the right size. The tighter you roll the core wool up, the easier it will be to felt it, because it's already more dense than if you roll it loosely. Then you don't have to felt as much. Just want to felt down all the loose wool here. Make sure it stays in a nice sphere. Just keep turning and felting. Okay, now to measure, I'm going to take my hat here, and see on this guy, this is definitely a little bit smaller, because the hat on the Santa I have just kind of sitting on top of the head. So we want to make this bigger. So I'm going to take a little bit more of my core roving, and I'm going to hold one end, and I'm just going to wrap it around. And wrap it around. Just a little at a time till you get where you want to be. So I added a little more, and now I'm going to felt again all over. Okay, now I'm going to remeasure this up against this other Santa here. So that looks about the right size. And you want to have enough room that the hat can sit on top. And then you'll have your nose and then some locks. So that looks about the right size. It is approximately 2.5 inches wide. Okay, now we're going to add the red color to our Santa. So the red's going to go all the way around besides just a little circle here at the top for the hat. So I'm just going to wrap that around like I'm adding a little bit more core wool. And just wrapped it around like I'm adding a little bit more core wool, and I'm going to felt it down all over until it's covered. All right, now that we have this covered besides our little circle on top, we're going to attach the hat. So when you attach the hat, gonna put the seam on the back side, and then we're gonna leave a little part here exposed for the face. So just slide your hat on top and then just felt down this edge all the way around the edge of the hat. Give your hat a little tug and make sure it's nice and secure. If you see any spots that are coming up, just felt them down. All right, so we get the hat on. And now we are going to shape our hat. So for the Santa, just pull it down to the side like this. And then I'm going to felt right here where it comes close to the body. And on the other side. I like to felt on the side so I don't felt here, because then it will kind of distort the shape of the hat. Just enough so it holds it down. Okay. And you can shape it any which way you like. That's just the way that I did it on this one. Now we can add his black belt. So grab a little bit of black wool. And you're just going to need a little here. And then we're going to find about where the middle is. And we're just going to felt this all the way around. Just make sure you're keeping an eye on that it's straight all the way around. Are you going somewhere then?
Yes.
Where are you going?
This ready to go?
What's this? Yeah. Where are you going?
I don't know, probably Sandusky Tractor Supply and Family Farm, try them.
Okay. You know what like size you need then?
Yep, 12 by 16.5. Where are you going?
To the chiropractor?
Yeah, that's right. In
What?
37 minutes.
Well, I'll probably leave before that.
Okay, well, I love you.
No, you can come here.
I don't want to interrupt your video.
Well, I can talk over it.
Huh?
I'll speed this part up. my back's starting to hurt already. Okay, now we have the black belt all the way around. So we can go ahead and add a nose, which you're going to need a flesh or a tan color for that. Kind of like this. We're going to take a little bit. And the same thing we did for the body. It's kind of roll it up into a ball shape here. But you're going to leave a little tail. And then carefully, you're going to felt that nose. Once you have a nice little ball felted, we're going to put it right here in the middle of the face, put that tail underneath of the nose, and then we're going to felt that tail down. So I'm going to go in from the side, underneath the nose, and felt the tail down all the way around. And then I'm also going to go in sideways into the nose and down and into the body part. Just going to felt that all the way around. Just like that. Okay. Next is to add the little cheek color. So you're going to take a little bit of your pink, your little rosy pink, and put it right next to the nose, right on the face. You just need a little bit. And we're just going to lightly felt that down right there. The same thing on the other side of the nose. Just to give them a little rosy cheek color. Now that we've added the cheeks, we are going to do the white around his hat and put the white on the end of the hat. So grab your white, just do a little bit at a time. I got a little thin piece of roving, and we're going to felt it on the edge of the hat over top of the nose. And I kind of like to felt it just a little loosely, make it look nice and, you know, poofy. Give it some 3D dimension there. All right, I got the white brim of the hat on, and now I need to felt a small ball for the end of the hat. So do the same thing with the nose as you did with the nose. And we're going to make a little ball of white. And it can be however big you want to make it to go on the end of that hat. But I'm not going to leave a tail. I am going to make this into just a ball this time. And we're just going to felt just keep turning and felting. I have my little ball. So I'm going to take the Santa and going to put the tip on the top of the ball there of the hat and just felt that tip right into that ball. Make sure to turn it to the other side. There. give her a little tug, make sure it's nice and secure, and should be all good on that. All right, so we're getting pretty close to finishing him up here. Now we just need to make the legs, and then we'll add the beard. So for the legs, need some more of our red wool. And we're just gonna take a little bit at a time. And you can make them as long as you want. You can make them shorter, fatter, whatever you like to do. But the basic idea here is first I'm going to take just some red roving and lay it out flat like this. And first I'm just going to felt it kind of flat like we did the hat. Just so all this wool binds together a little bit more. This one doesn't have to be as, you don't have to felt it as much as the hat in this first step. Just going to make sure those fibers combine a little bit more so they're easy to work with. I'm going to pull it up and then I'm going to roll it up. I'm going to roll it like I'm making a burrito or something. And I'm going to felt it. And then I'm going to turn it. So see, it's getting a little bit thinner. So I'm going to start at one end here. And I just folded this wispy end in so it's a little bit thicker here. And I'm just kind of folding it and rolling it together so it makes a nice tighter cylinder. And I'm just going to felt a little at a time. And just go up the leg. Trying to keep rolling it together so it's nice and tight. All right, so I got one leg completed. This one I did about, I don't know, 6-7 inches maybe. So I'm gonna just repeat the process and I'll make a second leg. And then we'll meet up after we make the second leg. Okay, we've got 2 legs made. So now we just need to make some boots for our Santa Claus. So let's grab a little bit of black wool. And we're gonna make the little boots. They're kind of like an oval type shape. So you just want to wrap up your wool to a little oval shape. All right, let's felt our boots. Got one boot. So now you just need to repeat the process and make a second. Okay, I have 2 boots made. So we're gonna attach them to the legs. So this is the same kind of concept as when we attached the ball to the end of his hat. So I'm just going to stick the leg right on the one end of the boot. And I'm just going to push my needle through the end of the leg and into the boot. You're going to do that all the way around until it's nice and securely felted. Okay, both boots are attached to the legs, and now we can add them onto our Santa. So we're going to attach them to the back side underneath, about right there. So same thing. All you need to do is felt through the leg into the body of the Santa. Do that all the way around for both legs. Give it a tug, make sure it's secure. You can also add a little bit more red wool on here if you'd like to help secure it. Sometimes I like to put it like over the joint and just felt that piece down. Sometimes it helps join those two kind of like a glue. And then we'll put on the second leg. Right, so both legs are attached. So now we're on to the very end of our Santa. We just have to attach the locks. So grab whatever locks you're going to be using. Now I have to arrange mine. I haven't done that yet. So you can see in these locks that the ends, the tips, are a little bit more discolored than the rest of the locks. And that's just because the tips of the sheep's fleece get exposed to more dirt and the elements. So they discolor a little bit, you know, as the sheep lives its life. So I'm just going to arrange them so all those tips are together and then the tops are together. So I got my locks arranged, and we're going to take the top of them and set them right on the face, covering up all the white. And then you just want to felt the tops of the locks right onto the Santa. You want to get it right up to that nose, right under the rosy part of the cheeks. Make sure you tug on them as you go, and if any come out, just refelt them down. Okay, now all the locks are attached, and that's it for our Santa Claus. Now, if you would like to, you can always sew in a string. You could sew it right in the top of the hat, and you can hang them as an ornament on a tree, or you could just sit them on a shelf. Whatever you'd like to do. They make great little gifts. They're super fun and easy to make. So if you have any questions, you can comment or send me a message on Facebook or Instagram. You can find the kits on my Etsy shop. And I hope you all have a great day. Happy felting!